Well, Bill, we're at the Swartz's now. What are we looking at?
Well, this is an asparagus patch, and a lot of people don't realize how asparagus kind of works. And basically, the asparagus season is always pretty short because you can only eat the asparagus, or it's only tasty, for the first couple weeks after it pops out of the ground. It pops out as a little stem and then grows bigger. And here you can kind of see where the top of this looks like what you'd think of as asparagus, but it's already gotten to about 2.5, pushing 3 feet tall. These turn into these almost fern-leafed little shrubs, trees, whatever you want to call them. But this is an asparagus. If you let it grow, instead of picking it and eating it, when it's small, they grow into these about 6 foot tall stems. And basically each spring you trim off a few of the stems as they pop up out of the ground, and then you leave it alone, and the next stems that come up basically keep the plant alive for the next year. Asparagus is a plant that kind of keeps on giving, while most of your garden plants go away before the next year. Asparagus, you can have a patch that goes for 20 to 30 years easily. Wow. So it's, as long as you maintain your patch, keep it fertilized, keep the weeds out of it, an asparagus patch can keep on giving you asparagus for a long, long time.
Okay, well tell me about one of these little, is this going to be a stem of asparagus?
Well, no. Only the stem that rises from the ground, from the ground. Yeah, you're going to snip that off.
So I have to snip all this off, right, in order to get asparagus?
Yeah, basically we're past the season here. Okay. It's basically comes up in April, and then by early May the season's over. It only lasts a couple weeks a year. Okay. So when you go to the supermarket and you see fresh asparagus, it's constantly coming from different places because it has to be harvested only during that first couple weeks of spring, wherever it's coming from. Okay. Yeah.
Does that mean a cooler temperature?
Right. Well, and of course you can grow it here just fine, right? It grows great. Sure. But it's just the spring, when the winter ends and the spring starts up, it's a perennial that puts out new shoots every year, like a lot of perennial flowers. So it starts to come up, and then when it gets to about 6 inches, 5 inches, you nip it off, and when you get a little bowl of that, then you got your side dish at dinner.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. We got some other things to look at. Let's go do it.
Okay. We're out among the bees.
Yeah, the Swartz's are kind of diverse. They've got perennial flowers, they've got horses, they've got chickens, and they also have bees. So they have several different hives out here. Let's see, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 6 over on this side, and this one is really visible in that it's got a lot of bees coming in and out right now.
This past winter, the weather was kind of cold on our bees. Did it take its toll on most of them?
I don't think so. I don't think that a lot of people had a tremendous amount of trouble with them. A lot of that has to do with how much honey they have, because of course we like the honey, but the reason the bees store the honey is basically that's their wintertime cachet. So summer they collect all their food, they stuff it into the hive and the honeycombs, and that's why most beekeepers will pull the honey for consumption in the springtime, because the fall honey is what the bees need to survive through the winter. So we didn't have a terrible season last year, so they were able to put away enough honey that most, I think, hives did okay. Now, I'm not a beekeeper, so there's probably a couple beekeepers out there that said, well, my hives didn't do so good. So it's one of those things that a lot of factors can affect them.
Okay, and then too, with all the honey and all that, there's a market for that, so we get that out there for fresh honey. And I know too, for people like me who have allergies, they say get honey within 25 miles of where you live, and it'll help you with your allergies during the summer months or whenever. Right.
The bees pull in that pollen, they digest it, but some of those enzymes that come from that are supposed to alleviate some allergies. But you mentioned the honey. There's also the wax, that comes from beehives. So bees are still a big contributor. Of course, these are European honeybees, right? They're not actually native to the United States, but we do use them a lot, and of course they're very valuable to our food crops because they do a lot of pollination.
Okay, Bill, what do we hear?
The Swartz's had problems with different rodents and that, getting rabbits or whatever chewing up some of their stuff, so they put in a solar electric fence, and so you don't have to run electricity to it. It doesn't cost you anything except for the initial to put it around the garden, but they said it's worked 100% perfectly, and as a result they haven't had anybody getting into their garden anymore. Wow. So we got some radishes out here, and some lettuces and a couple other things, some Swiss chard, so all unmolested by the wildlife.
That's great. So when you say solar anymore, there's no electric fence there. It's a solar fence.
Yeah, the sun is charging that fence wire and keeping the varmints out.
Fantastic. Bill, what have we got here?
Well, something else we got here is the Swartzes have 2 purple martin colonies, or one purple martin colony with 2 sets of housing. Purple martins are great at taking insects. They live most of their life on the wing, and as we look around us, there's probably 10, 12 of them flying around our heads right now, and they're not used to us being here, so I can see a few of them with bugs hanging out of their face to feed their babies. But Bernheim Forest now has 2 active colonies, and of course they've got one here, and other people like to have these. You can basically just put up a nest, and the purple martins seem to find them. But interesting thing about purple martins is that when the hatchling comes out, the entire colony will watch for that. And if the fledgling then is having trouble flying, the other birds will come underneath it and help lift it up and bounce underneath it until they can get it to a tree branch where it can be safe from predators or whatever. And so they work together as a team.
What a family.
Yep, indeed.
I guess we better move out of the way, Bill.
Yeah, they look like they're trying to feed the babies.
They're trying to feed us some worms. I'm here with Pat Swartz. How you doing today, Pat?
Well, I'm fine. We're having a big crowd and a good time.
Yes, we are. We're going to talk about your garden a little bit. Tell us how you got started with this garden.
Well, when we moved here, a lot of this wasn't here, and I'm just from a long line of planters. We dig lots of holes in our family, and I just started planting. The area around the waterfall, the fish pond here, was all grass, and I mowed it once, and it was really scary. I thought, I'm not mowing this again. So I just started planting things. Just whatever I happen to like, I stick it in the ground.
Okay, now, where in the pecking order did the water fountain come? Did it come in first, or was it?
Yes, it was here first. When we bought the house, it was here, and it was just awful green, and there was no fish in it. It just hadn't been taken care of, so we cleaned it out and then put fish in it. We have koi in there, and then started planting to make it easier to maintain.
Now, what are some of the plants you have around the water feature?
Well, we have some Japanese maples of a couple of different varieties. We have, as ground cover, some evergreens, very low-growing evergreens. And I have lots of lilies, daylilies, what else? Some mint over there. Lots of violets. I dearly love violets as ground cover. They keep the weeds from coming up.
Now, what were some of the challenges you had when you put this garden in?
Well, the steep slope was a challenge, and there was grass. And I'll tell you a trick. You don't have to till when you make a new garden if you have grass. You lay down 3 or 4 sheets of newspaper and then put mulch. I put mulch on top of it, and grass will not come up through newspaper. I don't know why, but it really it cuts down on the amount of work. And then you just start, you dig your holes and plant whatever you want to plant, and that really cuts down the work.
Now, we talk about this being a challenge for you. What about, we've got some viewers out there who might have some challenges. What type of advice would you give them? Should they go ahead and start, or and just say no, or what do you think?
Well, I think we have a tendency to make things a little bit too large. At least I do. Sort of like piling your food on your plate. Your eyes are bigger than your stomach. I think you need a plan, and you should think it out fairly well and research plants that you only have to plant once. That way, you don't waste money or time. And it turns out to be something really pretty. And I don't think you should get really upset about, I have to choose the perfect plant for the perfect spot. They're not children. You can always dig them up and move them. And they don't mind being moved, actually. And sometimes they just don't like where they are, and you move them to another location, and they're happy.
Yeah, well, I noticed you have a lot of shade back here.
Yes.
A lot of your big trees. So were you kind of limited in what you could put back here?
No, because luckily it gets a lot of morning sun and then some afternoon sun. Now, we have limbed up quite a bit. And I do keep limbing up every winter. As the branches get larger, we keep limbing up. And it lets enough filtered light in.
Okay. Now, where do you see yourself going with this garden?
Well, I tell you, this owning a farm was on my bucket list, not my husband's, because he wanted to be on the golf course. But we've been there before. So I see, it's mature, it's finished. I've finished doing what I want to do, and I'm hoping in a few years a young family buys the place and carries on, is what I hope.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you for sharing those points with us today. Some tips for our viewers out there. And that waterfall sounds wonderful.
Doesn't it sound wonderful? It really does. It's lovely. And it goes almost all year long. It only is shut off when it freezes completely, but it's most of the year that it's on.
Wow.
So it is lovely. It really
Yes,
is.
it is.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We
for
appreciate
inviting
it.
us. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Well, Bill, it's been quite a day.
It sure has. I'm glad you guys made it out again. Just tell everybody, like we always do, we put this on each year. The Blooming Bardstown Garden Tour is the Master Gardeners of Nelson County. And if you're interested in putting your garden on the tour or joining the Master Gardeners, you can call 502-348-9204 during normal business hours, and there'll be somebody there who can help you. We hope you enjoy the tour, and we hope you guys from Channel 6 can join us again next year. It's good to see you again, Yvonne.
Okay, well, thank you. And I hope that all of our viewers out there got some ideas today on how to put their garden together, and maybe jump at that challenge this year and not give up so quickly. Like Pat was saying, even though a plant doesn't do well in one area, you can always dig it up and put it someplace else. Don't give up. That's what she's saying.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Start small and dream big, and eventually we'll get you on the tour one day.
This has been Yvonne McNary for Central Kentucky Television.